Hello there, Sir from 17 once again. This is Darksiders 2, this is my Apocalyptic difficulty guide, and this is the Eternal Throne and the Toll of Kings. So say what you want about this game, it's got some pretty badass place names. I'm a big fan of, creative, cool names. And what we're going to be doing in this is we're going to be talking to some green guys. That's not me being a racist, that's just because I don't really know the names. And they're dead, the Lord of Bones and all that kind of great stuff, and they're going to send us on a miscellaneous fetch quest, which is essentially this game, this game in a teacup. And what we're doing is we're going to be going to an arena where we have to pick up a bunch of these crazy looking jewels and shove them in the forehead of this ridiculous statue so that we can kill this boss and prove that we are awesome because we just killed this boss. And I know that sounds exciting, and it is. And I do think it's an interesting trial for a man named Death, seeing as I is the personification of death. And it just, I don't know, interesting way to procrastinate a story to make us go to somewhere else before we can find out why the fuck we've gone here. But this is me going around chopping things up. I don't often do it, but every so often I get on a nice little rampage. But I've got a lot of topics to speak about, because as you've noticed, this game is not the easiest to commentate, and the reason for this is a lot of it is puzzles, and to commentate a puzzle you have to have it, locked to memory. And to me, a lot of these puzzles are more instinct than memory, because I just remember where to go, and it's one of those things where if I sat here telling you to go to this direction, and you see me go this direction, and I tell you to press the button, as you see me press the button, we just enter this territory of why the fuck am I even commentating when you can see what I'm doing and repeat it. So it just becomes extremely redundant then. And as far as the combat goes, I can't really tell you too much about the combat because the combat is essentially very simple. It's kind of bad and looks quite fancy, but if you try to get too fancy, it just results in absolute chaos and frustration. But this guide is also going to be one of the more tangent-full walkthroughs that I've done, purely because there's not a lot to speak about. There really isn't. Like, for this part coming up, there are a couple of tough battles in it, and I'm going to point out when the tough battles turn up so that you can pay attention to how I get through them. I don't think many people will struggle all that much, mainly because it seems to be really unlucky, this game. It's a game that relies on a lot of luck. For instance, if you ever get into a fight on this game with two stalkers, and stalkers are the worst enemy on this game because it has this area of effect move that seems to have so many different frames of attack in it that make it extremely difficult to dodge. And if you get hit by that twice, you're dead. And when they throw two of them at you, if they both do it at the same time and the first one hits you, you're dead. So no way to avoid it, no way to recover from a mistake, it's just pff, dead. And it's bullshit, it's really bullshit. Now this is me shooting one of the stones, which is a side quest I do need to do. Another thing I noticed on this game is I always use the weapon wheel, kind of like Mass Effect. I don't assign things to the keys when it comes to exploration. I don't know why, it's just something that I do. A couple of things to bear in mind in this guide as well is you're not going to see me do my equipment too much, mainly because I've edited it out, because I do tend to spend quite a long time. You're not going to see me talking to people, because I edit all that stuff out, or using shops. Just because you don't see it doesn't mean it doesn't happen, guys. I visit the shops a lot. I'm always looking for new weapons and new combinations of things. As far as the weapons that I like to use, I pretty much experiment with anything to have fun, but the one weapon I like to keep as a backup for when the shit hits the fan is the dual arm blades that enable you to fire the projectile, because there's just something about that weapon that I call them the sonic boom. I just literally, if I get into a situation where I'm getting my ass kicked and I can't do it, I'll put that weapon on and I'll play super defensive, super evasive, and just cheese them from a distance, and it works surprisingly well. And if you see me do that strategy in this guide, that is a fight that I struggled with, because when I tried to do it the standard way of just comboing people and juggling and things, I was getting my ass kicked. So that is my go-to, win situation when things go bad, so just bear in mind if you see that. What else will you not be seeing in this guide? Aside from, deaths and things, because I edited those out. I'm not going to be finding all the treasures, doing all the side quests, none of that kind of stuff. Just get you through the game. You can discover that other stuff, because that's the whole point of games, discovering things. You're not going to see me leveling up either or using my ability points. A lot of that is, I don't spend that many of them, because if I'm completely honest, I hate the abilities on this game. I just think they're boring. The only reason I use the Unstoppable is because I like damage buffs. I'm kind of a damage buff type person. What I would advise for people playing, go down the support tree, the one that enables you to summon people to help you. Because one thing I've noticed on this game, if you have anything else that's there distracting the enemies, the game is half as difficult. I personally don't use any of those spells, and I do believe it makes the game more challenging. And that's not exactly what I was going for. It's just, I don't like using help. I just find it boring. I don't know why. It's just one of those things that I do. And that aside, you know, you should be seeing quite a lot. But this is the Toll of Kings area. This is where we're going to be going through 3 separate doors to get to a crusted jewel thing. And every time you get to the jewel, there's going to be a gauntlet fight. Some of them are more difficult than others, and once you've done all 3, you'll fight a boss. But I'm going to talk about some different things, because you know, I've been doing some weird shit recently. And I say recently, my love film has sent me games that I was quite excited for, and then when they came, I hated them. And I don't know about you, but... or I should say, I don't know about you, even though I'm using your in a sense that I'm speaking to more than one person, which is actually bad grammar, but I'll live with it because it's a dialect thing. But when I rent a game, I'm super stoked to play it, because a part of me is still, you know, 8 years old and only had one game to play, so the concept of a new game was almost as exciting as Christmas. And even though I'm older now, I'm more calloused, and you know, the magic of gaming has dulled to an extent because I've done so much of it, I still get excited for the concept of a new game. And I think that's a good thing, and I'm sure a lot of people will agree with me. They do the same thing. And when I have a rental service that sends me 3 new games, I should always be excited to play these new titles. And I popped in the first one, which was Lollipop Chainsaw. A friend of mine said it was good, Lummy from the podcast. This is that moment in your life when you realise that your tastes with one of your friends couldn't be more different. And I hated it. I've now played the game a ridiculous amount of time because my pride will not let me send a game back that I know I can 1000G, because I used to be an achievement whore, and there is parts of my, you know, my psyche that still kind of harness those feelings. So I've been trying to get all the achievements on it. And this is a game I probably wouldn't have finished if it wasn't for achievements, because I hated it so bad. I played the first level and I turned it off. I found it to be quite possibly one of the worst third-person action titles I've ever played, from a developer that I really like, but for some reason they had half a concept for something that would equate to a tech demo, and they turned it into a game. This is essentially Panty Shots the game, because the combat is fucking terrible, every minigame in it is terrible, it's just literally, if I was to create a design doc of everything you shouldn't do in a game, that would be it. Because the only things the game does right is the music, the style, some of the dialogue, and that is it. Because everything else is terrible. And if I was, you know, Suda51, I would have not put my name on that title because I think it's that dreadful. But I've been playing a lot of it, and some of the achievements on the game are absolutely terrible too. Like, there's this one where you've got to do this minigame, this retro minigame called Skyscraper, which involves moving a square up a sequence of squares, and normally you can shoot, but there's an achievement for doing it without shooting. And what this means is you have to navigate all these perils, all these dangers in this retro-esque game and get to the top without dying, and if you get touched once, you die. That achievement, that little minigame, is harder than the entire game on its hardest difficulty. Because it's just bullshit. It's just absolute bullshit. Because, for so many reasons, I was tempted to make a video to show you how fucking stupid this thing was. Because you get to a moment where there are 2 lanes, there are 2 enemies shooting at you, and the projectiles you have to obviously dodge, and they'd done it so much so that you couldn't physically dodge them. They'd staggered the projectile. So there was no space to dodge. And you died. And what it was is, because the behaviour of the things that fired at you was random, you would either get really, really lucky and get to the top and have no problem, or you would get into situations where it was impossible to dodge things. And it took me like 40 minutes to do a minute's worth of gameplay on a minigame that would not have made it in the game if I was on the board of that dev team, because the minigame is a pile of shit. And that's the thing I don't understand the most about Lollipop Chainsaw. This is a game that has so little content in it that they have to introduce every single fight with a vignette, because if they didn't do that, the game would be approximately 7 minutes long. And 7 of those minutes is spent beating up one zombie because he doesn't die, because, once again, there are no pop enemies, there's no popcorn enemies, and if you're not a shooting game fan and you don't know what that terminology is an enemy that dies really quickly to make the game satisfying and to help alleviate the feeling that every enemy takes 1,000,000 hits to die, a la Killzone. And I think it's terrible design, because it completely disenfranchises you from the enjoyment of killing these enemies, and they throw a ton of them at you, to which none of them die ever so quickly, and when you're playing on the harder difficulties, they've got even more life. And the design of the game seems to literally be beat the game several times to get enough currency to buy the good combos that make the combat bearable. And that to me is just hilarious. And the game also has a ranking system where you can go for the high scores, and all the high scores are pretty much impossible to do unless you have these good combos that make the combat bearable, and it's just this mishmash of elements that make the game ridiculously tedious and just plain terrible, really. But as I was saying before I went on the tangent of how bad the combat is, the mini-games in the game make up a large, substantial portion of it, because they don't have a game. They really don't. It's like, oh, beat zombies up with a chainsaw and panty shots. That is it. That is the game. And because that'll take you for about 10 minutes before you realise it's fucking redundant, stupid, and will only be enjoyed by 10-year-olds who haven't discovered internet porn, they don't have a game, so they throw in these mini-games to try and alleviate this problem. And I come from a generation of gamers where if you put a mini-game in your game, make it the most fun and cool mini-game ever, so much so that people will play your game just to play the mini-game. And I'm looking at Time Splitters 2. So for anybody that didn't play Time Splitters 2, you had this device that was a map that enabled you to do some of the stealthy sections of the game. And on this device were 2 unlockable games. One of them was a game called Anaconda, which is essentially a rip-off of Snake, but it came out at such a time where phones weren't, you know, in everyone's pocket or everyone's fucking hands as they are nowadays, so that you can't, you know, interact with the human race. So nobody had Snake on every Nokia at that moment in time, so it was actually a pretty awesome thing. And the second game was Astrolander, which I believe is an old game, but I'd never played it, so it was this retro game that they put on. And those 2 games, I probably spent more time playing those 2 games than I have games that have come out this generation. For instance, I bought Ninja Gaiden 3, and I've played Astrolander on Time Splitters 2 more than I've played Ninja Gaiden 3. And that's because Astrolander is a great game, and it's a great minigame, and that's because Ninja Gaiden 3 is a pile of utter dog shit. But that's what you do with minigames. You make them the lure factor of your game. Lollipop Chainsaw didn't. Lollipop Chainsaw made them the most contrived, stupid, and least enjoyable factor of the entire experience. And I'm going to continue this on the next video, because I still don't have anything to say about this game. Thank you for watching, and you take care now.